You still there, Mike?
Yeah.
Right on. That was soothing, relaxing. The dulcet tones of Suhorhe always have that effect on me.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, it was handy to go to that track right then because I was getting a little hot under the collar and trying to, you know what? I'm really trying to control my bitterness and emotion while we do these shows because I know that would be very hard for people to listen to. No one wants to hear that. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And that exact point speaks to the fact that we've been away for a while after episode 18. You know what I mean? For people who listen to that, there was, you know, it's probably the only time that we've actually had any kind of discord or disagreement that bubbled to the surface during a show. And it made me think, you know, like in the intervening month or month and a half since we've done that show, the people that have come on to this show as guests and as panelists, etc., those are the people I respect the most and agree with the most on so many things. And the fact that I was put in a position where I disagreed with everybody on the Attawapiskat issue, I found it upsetting, and it was distracting and very unproductive. It was, you know, it's all. I think it's cool to talk about it now because we're back after sorting that out, and it's very instructive to just reflect on the fact that the people I agree with and respect most, the one thing I disagree with, you know, caused ripple effects of disagreement that affected the relationships, I think. Is it fair to say that, or?
I don't know if it affected it. I mean, it affected our ability to communicate maybe for a short time there, but in the end, I think that ultimately we're not always going to agree on everything, and I myself think that that's actually fine. We can represent more viewpoints that way.
Yeah.
And not everyone disagreed with you. I know there was a couple of people both involved in our show and outside of the show that you know, agreed with you.
Yeah, you know what? I even forgot about that. I even forgot about when there was disagreement. I even forgot about the people that agreed with me and concentrated on the disagreement. And the reason I even wanted to bring this up is because it speaks to the point that as progressives, it would be a really good idea if we stopped focusing on points of disagreement and start looking for the common ground. And the fact that progressives cannot do that to the extent that the conservatives can is why we have a Harper majority right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And this is something that we've talked about in almost every single show. And I think it's probably going to come up a lot. But this is just a direct experience that we've had. I mean, I found that the one tiny disagreement that we've had on the show had a much greater impact on me and my outlook than it probably should have. And if I've got a couple of New Year's resolutions that are going to be applied to my approach to this show, one is to don't sweat the tiny disagreements as much as I did about that one. You know what I mean? Like, I think, you know, behind the scenes, not so much on the show, but behind the scenes, I mean, I couldn't handle talking about it, you know.
Right. Well, sometimes you know, different issues for different people, and there's going to be an emotional response to some extent, and you know, in the end, though, you know, even where me and you had a disagreement as far as what the whole situation covered, it wasn't a complete disagreement, and like you said, that's what's important for progressive people to understand is the more we separate each other just on single issues, the less chance we're going to have in order to move forward and find it. We have to find a way. We have 3 to 4 years to find a way to defeat Stephen Harper.
Yeah, this instance reminds me of something I heard on a Jello Biafra spoken word bit, and he talked about this same subject where, you know, progressives will always seize on the disagreements, you know, and he talked about going to an anti-war demonstration once, and he showed up with a coffee, and other people at the demonstration pointed out the fact that his coffee was not fair trade.
Oh, God,
you know what I mean? And so it turned into a thing, you know what I mean? And what they were, so the unity that everyone was supposed to be showing there about their anti-war attitude turned into dissension about someone had a coffee that wasn't fair trade, and there was a whole bunch of people that had a problem with that person because of that. You know what I mean? And so I kind of equate this, our situation over Attawapiskat, Jello Biafra's non-fair trade coffee, and the fact that the Liberals and NDP cannot coordinate with themselves to unseat or prevent the Harper government from having a majority. And I think that if there's anything that needs to happen in the next few years, in order to hopefully rebuild the country after Harper is done tearing the ass out of it, I would like to see some cooperation between the NDP and the Liberals of some sort, and the Greens, you know, and the whatevers, you know what I mean?
With the ultimate end being that, you know, if we could get back to half the problem seems to be the majority setting in government. I'm sure there are some sensible conservative MPs out there that could work with other politicians from other parties as well. Stephen Harper doesn't really seem like one of them. No. But it doesn't mean that every conservative out there is cut from the same cloth as Stephen Harper too. So, but we definitely can't let this man have another majority. I mean, I said to you earlier today, I dream of the days of the Harper minority governments. I mean, even there.
Yeah, he had to step carefully. He had to step carefully, you know, and. You know, just let's be frank. This election was called when he had 40% support in the polls. So that meant that the NDP and Liberals, not pointing finger, like there's finger pointing going on both ways. But let's just keep in mind that it's a failure on both of their parts. To you know, if they didn't coordinate and prevent the election from happening at a time when Stephen Harper was at the zenith of his popularity. It's they forced that election at a time where they thought they had an issue they could win with, you know what I mean? He was at 40% popularity. Then they campaigned against each other the whole time, you know what I mean? And the sad result is now we have a Harper majority and possibly about 4 more years of dictatorial power wielded by a right-wing zealot.
Yeah.
You know.
And if people in these political parties keep coming forward and acting like it's just a regular election cycle, doesn't bode well for any Canadian who opposes Stephen Harper's agenda, because the tactics that they employ, all taken essentially from the Republicans' playbook in the United States, continual campaigning, perpetual campaigns, negative attack ads, wedge issues, I mean, you name it. And their arsenal, they got so much money too. The Conservative Party is a very wealthy party. Even like the Liberals don't have the funding that they have. The NDP certainly doesn't. And if these other parties don't realize that they're not living in the same political landscape.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Mike. You know, obviously, I think that I respect a lot of things that Jean Chrétien did, and I disrespect a lot of things, or some things he did. You know, in general, I liked him as a prime minister. But the whole election finance thing, what a mess did he make out of that? Okay, I'm 100% for eliminating corporate donations, okay? Because corporations are not people, money is not free speech, okay? But allowing a $1,200 maximum personal donation, is it any mystery that the party that caters to the wealthy has more money than the other parties?
Exactly.
There is probably not. I wonder if there's anyone that gives $1,200 to the NDP every year. You know what I mean? But I'm
sure
pretty
that if you found them, once you put them all together and compared them to the amount of people that give that to the Conservative Party, that it's going to be 10 to 1.
How about this?
Minimum.
You sell memberships for $25 a year or whatever it is, and that's what you do. Period. You know what I mean? And I've never made a secret of the fact that I don't like the vote subsidy, right? Per vote subsidy, like what is it? $2 per vote per year?
Yeah, I think it's
right?
$1.25 or
so
$1.75.
It makes sense then at that point in time to run your party like a business. Okay,
Yeah,
because
you're
your
trying to
job
buy
is the
votes.
party, right? Like the Green Party wouldn't really exist without that per vote subsidy. Elizabeth May would never have won a seat if she didn't take the entire nationwide Green Party per vote subsidy and dump it into one riding that she was in. The most, I mean, if you've ever been to the BC coast, wherever she is, I mean, there's a lot of ridings that are completely dominated by the hippies. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Flaky hippies. You know, and if you don't like my use of the terminology of that, or you think it's very negative, go to BC. Go to BC for a while. See how
Don't
you.
and don't bring a non-fair trade coffee with you.
Yeah. And so anyway, like I don't like the per vote subsidy, and I don't like the $1,200 maximum donation. You know, because that marginalizes people that can't afford $1,200. Like, come on, it
No,
doesn't make any sense.
and
Political parties shouldn't be run as businesses. They shouldn't have huge staff of professional party members. You know what I mean? If
mhm,
people want to be active in a political party, they should volunteer their time, assist with policy formation, and 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 get the message out like that. There's social media. There's, you know what I mean. There's all kinds of free ways to communicate with people. It shouldn't be about who can buy the most um, advertising space during hockey night in Canada to bombard the feeble minds of couch potatoes. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And that's how
Well,
elections are won in this country is by literally outspending people, um, outspending the other parties to bombard the minds of the most vulnerable and defenseless people. I mean, the TV watchers. You know what I mean?
mhm. They're already sitting there passively ingesting the signals from their television, and then they get bombarded by, I don't even want to call them political messages because they're really not political. There's no real dialogue, there's no explanation. They're talking points, and they're always usually negative, and they never really provide an answer. They just set a person into a mood and allow a person to fall into a groupthink essentially. And yeah, you know, it's funny too that Harper, before he was elected and while he was in minority settings, he talked about improving the election laws and campaigning laws. And then what has he done? I mean, he hasn't done either of those. In fact, he stifles debate, and that's what we need
Yeah.
on these things. We need a discussion on how to properly improve Canada's campaigning laws.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely, man.
mhm.